There we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to In the Matrix with. Today we have a special guest with us, Katrina German. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Matrix, the whole intention of this program is actually to give you access to the experts and their perspectives and insights that help us better navigate the realms of money management, money mindset, and money motive. And for those of you that know the drill, it's when these three realms come together that we're able to experience the magnificence of money even through COVID. So this is a special episode with a lot of people focused on how to make money and how to better manage our money through these extraordinary days. I want to be very mindful of the language that I use. Today we've got Katrina with us. So for those of you who don't know Katrina, and I think she's got a very strong and powerful brand out there and message, but Katrina is an award-winning geekess. I love that. Who is making good ideas louder. And if this is ever the time that we needed those good ideas to be shared and getting out there, this is the time. She's a technology specialist and digital strategist, and she's also the author of Action Tracking. I think that came out, was it last year, 2019? Yeah. 2019, okay.
No.
And Katrina and I actually had the great fortune of meeting Katrina years back. I don't even know how many years but look what I found. Look what I found, Katrina.
Ah, great. I don't know if people can see it from the video, but that's amazing.
So I had the great fortune of meeting Katrina when she was the tech startup and co-founder of One Story, this brilliant app to capture people's stories and to get them into video. And anyways, Katrina, it's so great to have you here. Obviously, lives have changed a lot, our lives, and especially now in the last couple of weeks. So I am thrilled to have you here specifically because you are the geekess in the space of understanding technology. I've been seeing you everywhere on media platforms, and so appreciative that you're willing to come here today to share with us your top picks. For those of you who haven't had to choose technology, software, equipment before, it can be extremely frustrating. I went through this experience in December trying to figure out what online course platform. It took me 3 weeks and a lot of aggravation trying to get to the bottom of it. So what you're going to share here today, Katrina, is invaluable for people. So thank you for stepping up and showing up powerfully today. So there's a lot to cover, I think, right? We're looking at an audience that some people are working from home. A lot of our audience are going to be entrepreneurs that are looking to pivot their business. And you had also talked to us or said that you would share with us ideas on software and equipment. So where do you want to start? Where do you think we need to start in all of this?
Well, first of all, I think we should explain that bottle that you showed. That was
it's not full.
Yeah, it was branded beer. We had all the people who'd helped start that company, and we put their faces on there as part of our brand for One Story, and so it was just a big thank you to a lot of the people in the early stages of that company. So I guess if you're going to start around any sort of marketing, that's sort of a fun one.
That is a great one. Love it.
I'm glad that's still kicking around. Maybe I'll just explain a little bit about my background too, because I know, Tanya, you were talking about the challenge of looking for all these different technologies, and because I has a technology co-founder, we've been working virtually. I've been working virtually for 10 years probably, since the very beginning, since it was really tricky. I'd love to be able to just work from my laptop. So during that time though, I've had the opportunity to try all sorts of tools. And I'm one of those people where I'm like, hey, I need this problem solved. I'm going to keep trying software until I could find that solution. So I've tried a lot of softwares that have failed. I've tried some that have stuck with me for years, and some I'm just trying now that are new. And so it really is a thing of trial and error, but you want to be, when you're looking for any sort of software or any sort of technology equipment, you want to be looking for things that are really going to be making your life easier, not harder. And there are some technologies that are out there that, they're just so complex. It's very difficult to wrap your brain around. One of the ones I'm going to use as an example is Infusionsoft. It's a very popular email platform that keeps track of your clients. And a lot of the people who are doing these large scale webinars and that sort of thing use it. The thing about that is they have this incredible sales process that just, if you ever want to take an exercise in sales, just go through their sales process. You'll be hooked. It's amazing. But the problem is you end up spending a whole bunch of money, they get you in by spending a lot of money up front. And it is set up fee, and then it's month to month of probably like $400 or $500, depending on what kind of system you've got set up. And then you get in there, and I'm very comfortable with technology, and it is so complex. You just I sat on it for like 6 months and never used it. I kept trying. I kept, it was on, it got to the point where it was, an excellent exercise in sunk costs because I realized that I wasn't using it, and I had to just walk away, even though I'd spent all that money on it already. And so, there's a lot of technologies out there, and I ended up finding something that was equally good, way easier to use, and a fraction of the cost, like a tenth. And so it's really about, when you're evaluating any technology, what do you think your return on investment is going to be? Like, if you think putting $500 into a really great software for emailing people is actually going to get you over $500 in return for sales that you may be putting out, sure, good software. But if you don't think it's going to have that return, don't do it. And especially you want to be thinking about the time spent setting that up and what that looks like for you, because that matters, that all those pieces and that complexity and pulling your hair out, it's not worth it if it's not going to be a nice, smooth transition. So a lot of the recommendations I'm going to have today are things that I've tried. Again, I'm comfortable with technology, but I always want to I love a good user interface, a good experience of being able to use that technology. So I'll be sharing a lot of the, things that I've learned and the tools that I've learned, and hopefully they'll be comfortable for people to just sort of dive in.
Beautiful. Brilliant. I love that piece too, just about return on investment. What's your ROI, right? Like being able to measure that first. So thank you. This is exciting. Let's go. Where do we go? Where
should we go? Yeah. Well, first of all, also, I'll just encourage people to, to put up questions as well. But, yes. One of the things I think a lot of people are looking to, let's just dive into e-commerce platforms. So basically, a lot of people who have stores, they may be selling services. They're now finding that they need to be moving things online. And you may, what tends to happen with a lot of businesses is they sort of, get their website set up and, 3 or 4 years ago, and then they're like, hey, great, that's checked off my list, website done. And they just leave it. It's not actually doing its work for you, because your website should also be a salesperson and actually converting people. So, a lot of these e-commerce platforms and moving into them, and I'm talking about like Squarespace is one of them, where you can sell things through that. Shopify, there's several others like BigCommerce. There's a lot of them that you can be using, and I've tried out several of them. The biggest thing that you want to be thinking about is, it becomes almost a new website for you. And, in fact, sometimes you can even replace, if you have an old WordPress or something like that, with one of these e-commerce platforms. And they're relatively easy to use. So one of the things I often recommend with my clients is Squarespace. It's, about $25 American a month. So there's the monthly cost. So that's one difference between it and WordPress. And there's different, of course, tiers for that too. But you can sell your products through it. You can set it all up so you can even sell subscriptions to, if you want to have people have subscription, a monthly. I know somebody on here offers meditation as a service. And so if you wanted to just do a subscription, you can actually set that up through Squarespace. The thing I like about it the most too is that it is very accessible for just the average person to go in and figure it out. It takes a little bit of time to figure out the interface and like, how do I actually set up this website? But they have really great tutorials. And once you're in and you have sort of that basic foundation, if you played around a little bit, it just becomes very simple to do all of your pages, so that not only can you set it up yourself, your Squarespace site, and be able to sell your services or products, but you can also make some changes. If your website is not converting, if people are not going to your, you're sending traffic there through your social media, people are getting there, if they're not actually becoming clients or reaching out to you or buying your service, then that's a problem. So you want to be making adjustments to your website, and Squarespace allows you to do that rather than paying somebody, $5,000 to make some adjustments.
Do you think oftentimes the adjustment is needed in content, or is it needed in that user interface that you're talking about, or is it both?
A little bit of both. So that's another reason why I particularly like Squarespace, is because it looks good. people will often make judgments on your website. Like they'll decide whether they like you and your company within seconds, nanoseconds of seeing the website. So you want something that looks good, that looks like you're reputable and it's clean. And Squarespace has that down. Like I think they have the nicest designs. And so you get that aesthetic, it looks aesthetically pleasing. People will go there and they're just going to trust you more because it's just a nice, clean design. But the other side is the content too. There's content's incredibly important what you're putting up. And one of the things that a lot of people get into the habit of doing, particularly on their website, is talking about me. Here's what I do. Here's what, and that sort of thing. And there's ways of using that tone, like, you're coming at it from your perspective. Here's what I believe, all that kind of stuff. But you need to make sure that that content resonates with people, with your ideal market. So you want to be thinking about, what matters to the people that I'm selling to. And, so again, when it comes to, I'm just gonna use the meditation example again, you want to be thinking about, you may have terms that you describe meditation on, your industry describes meditation in different ways. But when people are actually looking for you, how are they describing it? What is the pain that they're feeling that you can solve for them? And, you can actually, there's some really great handy tools out there. This is part of my book is action tracking, but there's Google Keyword Planner is the first step to finding out a lot of that information. It's a free tool. If you have a Google Ads account, you can just go in there and you just type in, terms, meditation, and it'll just tell you what people in Saskatchewan, but people in Canada are searching for around the term meditation. So, and you'll have all sorts of ideas, of different blog posts you can put out, all that sort of thing. But also it gives you the language that people are using in their minds when they're looking for your product. So there could be a big difference between the amount of people who search for Saskatoon meditation or meditation in Saskatoon. There could be 1,000 different searches, a difference of the month. So, and you're going to find other information in there too. Like it probably, I'm just guessing again, and this is not data-based, but, probably when people are looking for meditation, especially right now, they're trying to have, peace of mind. They're trying to, maybe get over fear. They're trying to maybe have a bit of quiet in, a wild house, kind of thing. And so you want to be trying to figure out what their language is. What is the problem that they're trying to solve? So that you get that feeling. I don't know if you've ever been to a website where you go into the website and you're like, they're talking to me. Like this person understands me so well that I have to buy.
Yeah. So you're suggesting then it is, so Clayton's chiming in here. He feels like you're talking to him.
Oh, that's so funny.
Funny thing that. So what you're suggesting is you infuse that language into your content, as well as creating the hashtags or all of those keywords in the Google piece, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. You just do your research in Google and then you translate that research into your content.
Okay.
And not only will that be more convincing for people, again, you're trying to get the people who are already looking for you to your site. This is just a connection piece, right? How do you find them and bring them there? And then how do you make them, more comfortable once they're there? So that they're like, yes, you are the right fit for me. So using Google Keyword Planner as a tool in which to base that research is basically just a big, cheap market study that you can access for free.
And you said to get that, you have to subscribe to Google AdWords.
Well, yeah. So if you have a Google Ads account, now I'm going to tell you the hack to get around this too.
Listen in, everyone.
You don't actually want to do Google Ads. Go through, set up an account, even put your credit card in. They're going to make you set up an ad. It's a bit of an awkward process, but once you go through it, just put in a bunch of gibberish and then just stop your ad immediately. Yes, they still have your credit card information, but now you have access to this really incredible resource, the Keyword Planner, and you don't have to actually run any of the ads. So that's kind of the hack around it.
Okay.
Set up the ad, but just don't run it.
It is recorded, but okay. Well,
yeah.
We'll keep it on the down low.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's brilliant. That's great. Okay. So that's a part of the e-commerce piece. You've given some options there with respect to the Shopify and the Square. And then you're saying leverage your site. I love that tip about your website should be a salesperson. Like it should be out there converting for you. So make sure you're doing that properly with the right language that is basically hitting what your market's frustrations are right now. Okay. Are there other tips there that you want to share on the e-commerce piece or?
Well, maybe I can talk about a couple of the platforms a little bit so you
Beautiful.
can find out if it's the right platform for you and some of the
Okay.
things that you're going to want to weigh. So, for example, with Squarespace, a different tiered of their systems, if you have like just a business account, they're going to charge you like 3% per transaction. And then plus you're going to be attaching your, Square or whatever it is you're using to gather money, or sorry, a Stripe in the back end to gather money. And then Stripe is also going to be charging you a percentage of your transaction fee. So whenever you're evaluating any of these, take a look at what those transaction fees could be, because you think, oh, hey, it's not that much. It's only 3% plus another 3%. That's 6%. But that can add up over time, especially if you're doing subscriptions, all that kind of stuff. And so it's one of those things where that's just something to be aware of. I have used regularly Squarespace and Shopify. Shopify is a Canadian company, so I like that about them. And they're kind of more product based. If you have products to sell, they have partnerships with a lot of great, they have integrations, they're called. So you can just plug in, say if you're selling t-shirts, there's a company called Printful in the States that will automatically, create these t-shirts and send them out for you. You just have to upload the designs and all that kind of stuff. So if you connect your Shopify with your Printful, you almost have to do nothing. It all just like talks and connects. So Shopify is excellent for products. And I found it really easy to use. It's excellent to get in. But Squarespace, I really like, particularly for professional services, just because it's so clean, it looks very high end, and it just has a good feeling to it for that design. So I like both of them a lot, and those are what I generally recommend to people. I have tried BigCommerce in the past, and the reason I chose it was for the fees. They were lower, but I found it very difficult to use and get set up. So that's, it's still a great platform. The fees are lower, but it's just a little bit, again, more time and, your comfort level with technology.
Okay. So, and then does Wix fit in there, or is that website creation? I know you're suggesting you kind of merge everything together so you're not doubling up on efforts right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Wix is very similar to Squarespace. I don't know, I'm pretty sure they probably do have a commerce feature where you can sell through there too. But I have often found, this is just my own personal preference, that the Wix templates just don't look as nice as Squarespace. So it can be cheaper. Like they do have free versions and stuff of Wix. So that's also, if you're just like, hey, I need a quick and dirty website, I've got no extra money to put into this right now, Wix is a great option, just to have some website where you don't have to like pay a lot of money to a developer or designer. And so, Wix is great, but again, it's my personal preference, and that aesthetic of Wix, I prefer Squarespace to it.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. So anything else on the e-commerce piece? You did mention Stripe. So all of those are on the back end. Those are like your merchant accounts, right? That are actually taking the money. I love that tip on really making sure that you understand the true costs. Mm-hmm. And I suspect that given the tier of the pricing model that you're using, weighing that, right? Because the lower the tier, probably the more that they're taking. Mm-hmm. Right? Versus the higher the tier, it might seem more expensive per month, but when you calculate the transaction fees or the commission fees, it might be to your benefit. So doing all of that math.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So e-commerce, is that good? Are we good on e-commerce? Anything else?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What else are you seeing? I know I've got some clients that are definitely trying to get into online courses right now and building those, but are you seeing another more pressing demand right now from the people that are reaching out to you looking for support?
I think you're absolutely right in the two areas. One is webinars, because almost all of these, people have had conferences and events planned forever, and they have to figure out a new way in which to deliver those. And so there's a lot of different platforms for that. A lot of people are just using things like Zoom. It's handy. You can have thousands of people in there. There was a criticism for a while, like several groups were being Zoom bombed, where people were just coming in and swearing and saying racist things in the comments box. But Zoom addressed those things and came
just
back.
Check our comment box. No, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
It's a quiet group this morning, but okay, no F-bombs. All right.
But they're trying to do things to address that, like having automatic passwords and having more encrypted conversations when you have a paid account.
Okay.
So they are doing some things around that. If you want to be moving right into like that webinar space, there's one that I've always explored. I haven't ever used it, but I thought it was very interesting. It's called Ever Webinar. And it's this idea that basically you record it once, but then as people go through your process, it feels like it's a fresh live webinar for them. So it kind of minimizes the amount of time you have to spend. You can put on one big webinar, but then you offer it for people going forward. And so whenever they sign up, it feels like they're signing up for a fresh webinar, but it's really sort of a canned one. So it's a bit of a, it's not really necessarily fair to your audience in some ways if they think it's fresh. But if you're kind of clear with them, like, hey, this is an older webinar, but you're getting access to it, then I think it could be a really great program for that. In terms of courses, you mentioned like a lot of people are moving to these online courses. I'm actually curious, which platform did you end up deciding for your online course?
I went with Thinkific.
Yes, good choice.
It was the Canadian flag that got me on that one too. Canadian company out of Vancouver. So I went, okay, phew, all right.
Yeah. No, exactly. I did the same thing, because when I released my book Action Tracking, I have a video course attached to that as well, and it was the same option of going through and trying to figure out one of the frustrations, and I'll just put it out there, you probably dealt with this is something that the entire industry is dealing with. I just want to save a bunch of people time, because they're going to be looking for this and it doesn't exist that I know of yet, but I'm keeping an eye open for it. But a lot of people want to use their courses and keep them embedded in their own website. So basically, it'd be like you go to katrinagerman.com, and then you never have to leave that website. You can just like kind of dive in or buy my course right there with all the other stuff. But unfortunately, most of them make you go to their platforms. That's one thing I'm just going to save people time looking for. The alternative, if you do find one of those platforms that can easily embed in your website, please let me know, because, that's something that a lot of people are looking for. But I did a lot of research for it at the time, and I just couldn't find anything that did it that easily. The other one that I know of people who are using is Kajabi.
Yes.
Which is good. Again, it's more of an expense. I know that the woman I know who was using it had a bit of a trickier time setting it up, but now that it's set up, she really likes it. So, Kajabi is another one, but it is more expensive.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think the one thing that I noticed with all of them is that you can customize them, right? So it feels like your website. You can customize the Pantone colors and maybe it's not even called Pantone colors in technology. It's probably called something else, right? RGB or anyways. But fonts. And so people feel the design is consistent, right? And obviously the tone of your content is consistent, but you're right. It doesn't, I didn't find that either. I didn't find anything that embedded in. Okay, so, and I'm actually just curious, with Zoom, I have been getting a lot of feedback that people, with Zoom, there's the option to do meetings and there's the option to do webinars. And what we're doing here today is a webinar. And the feedback that I'm getting from people is that they actually are missing the sense of connection, where everybody's video is up there and they get to say good morning to everybody. Or do you have any feedback with respect to meetings versus video technology today? Any glitches or other meeting platforms instead of webinars?
Yeah. So, at Zoom, I think any technology is going to have pros and cons, right? And Zoom's been kind of getting a bit of trouble for, not being reliable. Sometimes it goes down, people get kicked out for no reason, all that kind of stuff. That, honestly, video is really hard. It's huge files going back and forth. And I always feel like Zoom does a good job, and like all of these platforms have these same issues of glitching in and out, internet having a break, people crashing, all that kind of stuff. So my main concern when this whole COVID thing happened was, does Zoom have the capacity to take on all of these extra calls and all that sort of thing? And I feel like from a technology standpoint, have done a very good job at being able to scale in the massive way that they have. So, in terms of that connection piece too, like, I think it just depends on how many people you're expecting, right? Like, I think I've had a couple of meetings that were huge, that were set up as meetings, and you still don't feel that sense of connection, just simply because there's panel after panel after panel of people on there.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of different, platforms for video conferencing, right? Like I just used WebEx for a webinar I did yesterday morning. And, it's just a matter of what people's comfort level is. Are people comfortable downloading the software required to access, some of these things? That's one of the nice things about Zoom and Google Hangouts is you just have to send a link and people can get in.
Good point.
Yeah. So, so it's kind of, you want to be always thinking about, are the people that you're inviting, do they have easy access to, the software, or are you making them download another app? So, is there just, because anytime you want to get people to a meeting or something, it's like, how do you make this as frictionless as possible? And, you don't want to have something like, oh, I've got to download an app, I'm not going, be the thing that stops people from attending. So really, it's really about that experience of how can you invite people and how can they attend easily. Yeah, again, to like even Google some of their stuff, you need Google accounts to access them comfortably. And so, that's why I think a lot of people are going to Zoom is it's sort of platform agnostic. You don't have to be, Apple or Windows, you can.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me too of how you started this conversation, which was about user-based design, right? And I think if you're the introvert, as we were talking about with Jolene, and we've switched our personality traits, sometimes the thinking through everything isn't necessarily there. So if you take this one nugget out of this call about user-based design, but user from the other perspective, not just our experience, but their experience. Create that, that fan base, right? And that loyalty of people building trust with them because we've made it easy for them rather than more challenging, especially right now. All right. Where I'm also getting questions, I don't know if you've been seeing these, podcasts. It seems like everyone is starting a podcast. Yeah. What are your thoughts on podcasting, Katrina?
Well, it's interesting because I think even before this started, there was like a huge absurd, is that a word? People,
let's go with it. It's a word to me.
Interested in podcasts. I did recently see somebody who analyzes media trends, Duncan Stewart, had posted a link to, and I can't remember the actual numbers, but it was around the idea that actually podcast listening is down during this. And I think it's probably because a lot of people, when they listen to podcasts, it's on the way to work or, as they're driving and commuting and that sort of thing. And so you have to be thinking about how people are actually engaging in that content when they're listening to it, that kind of thing. And so apparently podcast listening is down right now, or it was a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know if it's, going to be back up as people's lives people get used to this new normal, or if it's, what that looks like. But in the meantime, I think it's also, you want to have the right equipment, that sort of thing to do a good, effective podcast. However, you also want to have the right content, right? You don't want to just waste somebody's time, by putting things out. And so you want to be really conscious about it. And just like anything, if you're creating content, you want to be consistent. And so, in your case, you're doing regular of these interviews, that's awesome. But, if you can't commit to kind of doing it weekly or every 2 weeks or whatever it is that you have, committed to your audience, don't do it. Make sure it's something you're going to be doing consistently and making a priority. And again, I look back to any marketing, any activities that you do, what is the return on investment? Like, are you actually, because it's a big time consuming thing to do a podcast, to get it set up, to get people, people there to visit the actual time of the podcast, uploading it to the different places, so that people can access it and potentially editing it, in the interim of that too. So, it's not something that you're just like, hey, I'm just going to talk about something. And then it's, all of a sudden this amazing podcast. Like there's a lot of work that goes into that process and putting that out. So kind of being aware of that, and then also being like, all right, what is the return going to be for me? And, and that's basically how I would weigh it. Like, do you think, and particularly in this economy, it's really nice to do things that are building brand and making people like you more. And like, that's a lovely thing to do. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that type of work, but you need to have things that are actually going to be converting people to potential clients at this particular juncture. Like if you're a small business, you need, you can't fool around at this point. Building your brand at the same time, beautiful, but you want to be really conscious about what are things that are actually going to convert people. And so maybe being a knowledge expert, sharing your stuff, through a podcast is the way, that's going to be the right thing for you. But it really is about evaluating your perfect, your. And another thing that ends up happening too is that people do a lot, right? They try to do everything. They're trying to be on all the social media platforms. They're trying to, do podcast videos, Facebook lives, all that kind of stuff. You
Yeah.
can spend your entire day doing these marketing things, but ultimately they have to be having that conversion.
Beautiful. So tying that in, right? Having the whole strategy and understanding how the funnel, right?
Yeah.
How you create awareness, where you lead them into the next step, how you start pulling them down. Clayton actually, sorry, I should say pulling them through or pulling them up, not pulling them down, but Clayton has let us know that upsurge is a noun and
Yes.
upward
Thank you.
surge and the strength or quality is something, woohoo, an increase. So thank you for that, Clayton. Appreciate that. So this is, I am curious, what is the difference between a podcast, a vlog, a blog? Like exactly what is that difference?
So, podcast is going to be your audio only.
Audio only. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And some people actually double duty. Like in your case, Zoom, you're recording this, you have the video,
Yeah.
but Zoom also gives you the files that you need just for audio. So you could technically just turn this into a podcast fairly easily. But again, you need to go through the upload and all that kind of stuff.
Right. There's a whole whack of,
Exactly.
it's
Almost killing
definitely
two
been a
birds with
learning
one
curve.
stone, one bit of content, putting it in a couple of different places.
Putting it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a vlog, video blog, a lot of people are doing that too. Ultimately it's kind of, and then the blog is your written words, and ultimately what it boils down to is almost kind of your comfort level and where you communicate best. So some people are great on video, other people are awesome, but some people are just not comfortable on video. They just don't want to take it that far. And so they're like, but I have some ideas. I'm comfortable with my voice. I'm going to move over to the podcast. Same thing, like how you imagine your audience, like the people you want to be converting to sales, how are they consuming, right? How are they consuming their media? Is it better for them to watch a video on Facebook, or is it better for them to have it part of their, Audible collection?
Okay. So I'm hearing, again, know your audience, create content that's going to be relevant for them, potentially find ways to leverage that content. So if you're doing a video, you can turn that into an audio, you can turn it into a transcript, throw pieces here and there, right, to leverage that. But it sounds like at the end of the day too, one of the most important things is making sure that all of that is based on a strategy that is driving some sort of conversion or revenue for you at the end of the day, if that is the situation that you find yourself in now, where revenue is priority number one, right? Like pulling all that together. So just a question on editing. So if people are doing these things and creating the content, editing the written word is easy. What about editing videos and editing audio? Is that an easy task, or is it better to outsource it? What are your thoughts?
Again, depending on your technical level and your comfort. So there's lots of, quite simple video editing tools. Like if you have a Mac system, even just using iMovie, is pretty easy to kind of put some things together. Another one I want to try, I haven't done it yet, but it's Magisto, and it basically just takes a bunch of photos and edits together into a really nice video. So it kind of keeps things nice and easy. So there's a lot of video editing and audio editing equipment out there. So it's just really about, what is your comfort level doing that type of work. It's also too, in this time, people want to be evaluating their time and how they're spending it. And so it's that same thing too. Like if you're spending 4 hours editing your podcast and you could have uploaded that, to somebody on Upwork who could have done it in half an hour for, $30, then it's worth doing that in that way, because, just be thinking about, is it just better, am I the right one to do this? Or is this something I should be outsourcing just based on the fact that I have a limited amount of time? Where should I be putting my attention that's going to best serve my business at this point?
Okay. So you brought up another point. So just for clarification for everybody, the outsourcing, there's the different websites like Upwork, you mentioned, right? Upwork, Elance, Fiverr.
Yeah. Fiverr's another one. Yeah.
Am I missing any big ones there?
The big ones, I tend to use Upwork or Fiverr, and they're really easy to use. You can find people quite easily to hire. A lot of people tend to be, from different countries and different time zones, that sort of thing. So when you are hiring and outsourcing kind of virtual assistants or virtual help, A couple things of just, tips to do that. So first thing is, just making sure you're very clear with your instructions and exactly what you want. Asking them if they have some examples that are similar to that. Basically, being clear with how much it's going to cost, how much time you expect, what if you had your ideal product at the end, being clear that this is what this looks like. Here's how I want this back. I want it back in an MP4 version that's down to 25 minutes, that has these pieces cut out, that kind of thing. Like, you want to give very, very clean instructions to people. Recognizing too that sometimes, because people are in different time zones, like, you can be doing your work at 7 a.m. and they're not going to get back to you till 7 p.m. just because they're in a different place in the world. And so sometimes things, time can get delayed. However, and some people, sometimes people just drop off too. I've had, contractors who are just kind of gone, but they don't get paid through the platform until they perform, until, both of you feel that the project is done. So, it's a bit of trial and error, but once you find good people who are virtual assistants, it's awesome. Like, it can be, a game changer. I work with a woman I've worked with for about 4 years now. She's based in Guatemala. She's amazing. And, she just helps me out in a lot of my measurement stuff, just things that is very time consuming, but, she's there, she's on it. She's very reliable and just awesome.
Do you think it would make sense to actually reach out to people that that are using people on Upwork or Fiverr and asking them for referrals?
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've covered that and that and that and that. Should we move into equipment, or are we missing some other important software technology, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. If there's any questions, please.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah.
Are people quiet here this morning?
Yeah. So, equipment in general, again, like right now I'm not using anything. I'm using my computer audio, and it works fine generally if you have kind of newer systems or laptops. However, if you are going to be making this something that, you want to be professional something, there's a lot of different things that you can get. So, prior to the COVID, I was doing a sort of a Friday afternoon, I may get it started up again, but I'm not sure, just sort of interviews, but we're calling it Between Two Plants, just joking on the Between Two Ferns. But it was, a lot of women entrepreneurs talking about something that they're really good at and sharing it for the business community. And, we started off in the very first one, we just used, the audio from the phone, to record the Facebook Live, and it was hollow. It was okay, you could hear, but, we were in a larger space and didn't have that great sound. So $25 to Amazon for some little lapel mics and just stick on there. And honestly, the second session, we actually had someone playing ping pong, like feet away from where we were recording. We're like, oh, come on. But it was difficult. We'd already started. We couldn't shut them down. It wasn't an easy, but, just those teeny tiny lapel mics, less than $25 from Amazon, cut it out. You could not tell, from the recording that there was somebody just feet away playing ping pong. So there, if you are going to make this happen, I notice you have, a great mic there. If you are going to podcast, if you are going to be doing a lot of these, video interviews or online trainings, just, a quick search on Amazon, your Google in terms of what are the best. You don't have to be spending hundreds of dollars. You can get some pretty good stuff for $100 or less. That's going to do the job and get you there.
Okay. And on that vein, anything specifically for, the lighting and are there any, I think there's kits that you can buy, right? That's a little bit of everything. Would you recommend the kits or?
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are advertising just that, right? Like the big ring that you can have there. There's some that have like just, stands that have a light and your phone underneath to record. Again, anytime, when I think about content, it sort of depends on your audience and, are they going to really care that your lighting is exactly right and has that consistent,
especially now.
Yeah, oftentimes not. I think just getting it done and doing, getting the content itself out there is more important. Perfection is the enemy of the good.
Yeah. Especially now, right? And I think it's been my experience that if it looks too good now, maybe the content isn't there, right? It's too polished, it's too corporate, it's not authentic, it's not real for whatever reason that might be. But yeah, people are really gravitating to that kind of, I don't know what the word is, but in the trenches, let's just get it out there. And like you said, content is king right now. Like just there to show up powerfully for people.
Just be your authentic self.
Yeah. Okay. I think we went through everything on the the list of the questions that I had, the online courses, sorry, I'm looking away because I'm looking at a list, but the online courses, the podcast, the e-commerce piece, webinars and meetings, website builders, we talked about that at the very beginning, equipment. Are there questions that I didn't ask you about technology that you think is important to share, or insights important to share with respect to technology right now? Saving information. I know there's a big thing now on just protecting your information, a lot of fraudulent activity that's going on right now through the internet. Anything that you want to share with us that you think is important that we didn't touch on yet?
Well, I think ultimately, it's really about, what's going to, particularly right now, and I'm thinking about a lot of small businesses, like this is such a crucial time for revenue because we're all taking a hit in different forms, and this is probably not going to be done in the short term. And so you really want to be thinking about, how you can repurpose your services in a way that is going to be accessible to people. And, as more and more people go to online courses, that market is going to be saturated, right? As people go to more podcasts, that market's going to be saturated. And so people are not going to be finding probably the return on investment for a lot of these things. I guess for me, I'm kind of a fan of just like trying what you can to see what's actually going to work, right? Not investing in a lot of stuff, but maybe doing a video interview with somebody just to try it once and see if you get any sort of response, if it if it has some sort of a return for you, and not investing a lot in equipment, not investing a lot in doing the minimum that you can to just test and see if it's the right thing for you. Even things like putting a lot into a really fancy website design right now is that might not be the right place to put your money.
Right.
So you just really want to be thinking about alternatives constantly. And what's the minimum that you can do to have the biggest return on investment and have the biggest bang in terms of what you're trying to accomplish.
Very smart. I think, it was interesting to me. I was speaking with a financial institution out of Alberta that did a lot of presentations. I would do a lot of presentations for them. And then in COVID, they're like, oh, we've got to switch our platform and obviously our delivery mechanisms. And I said, well, don't worry. I've got Zoom. I've been using Zoom for 5 years. I'm quite comfortable with it. And it took them about 3 weeks. They actually just got back to me. And they said, wow, we've got all of our branding standards. And now we've got a big checklist on what the panelists need to go through in terms of how to present and it's like, guys, you're missing, it's time to just show up for your clients. Like forget about the polish and just show up and help them. They don't care about the language that a panelist is using. And I'm sure that there's liability issues and everyone's trying to protect policy at this point. But one of our earlier panelists was talking about, and I see Jill is here too. And we've been talking about just how you show up now for your clients, for your employees, for your team, is really what your brand becomes out of this. It's your brand legacy on the other side of COVID. So this whole getting it perfect is not what it's about. You can probably see this chat in here from Clayton. Repurpose your services and be relevant now more than ever. Absolutely. Great work today, ladies. Clayton has shared, so a little pat on the back. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that, Clay, and thank you for showing up in this chat. And I would love to hear from everybody on the call. Again, this is certainly not perfect by any means, but I would love to hear from you, attendees, as to whether or not you like this format, or if you would prefer to be on video and build more community and more sense of connection. I would love to hear what you have to say. So please weigh in on that before the end of the call. I think are all those your nuggets for us? There was so much in there. I feel like I need to watch this another 10 times because I started taking notes and I'm like, I'm not listening and I want to listen. And so I'll have to go back so I can extract some of these and then make sure I can get those little nuggets out there. Anything that we missed? Are you feeling like we've covered off some really key essentials to get people started?
Yeah, I hope so, right? I hope that, people have those foundations. Again, just, in this economy, keep it minimal. Keep it minimal.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing I was just going to weigh in, what I have noticed too, is people are talking about timing of webinars and meetings, right? And how what used to work isn't working anymore. The 9 a.m. calls aren't working anymore because people are with their family. The lunches aren't working anymore because people are sitting and having lunch with their family. So, so thank you for being here this morning. I'm going to be mindful of that going forward. The intention with these calls is to show up for you and give you information and tools and resources that will help you to the best that they can through this. Katrina, are you okay with me sharing your information so that people can connect with you personally if they have questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
KatrinaGerman.com.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I will put that out there. And is there anything that you are offering now for small business owners that will help them through COVID? Any products or services, online programs?
Yeah, certainly. So before this, we used to have packages that were, a little bit more expensive because we were working with people sort of in a long-term deep dive digital marketing capacity. We have shifted our services. So if you just need something like Google Ads, a Facebook posting calendar, anything like that, that you just kind of need just a little bit of extra help with, that's something that we have shifted to doing sort of more low price, really action oriented, chunks of a digital strategy rather than the whole digital strategy. So if people are interested in, getting a little bit of help or know somebody who want to get more into the digital marketing side, please, we write blog posts for people, that sort of thing too. So please do reach out or refer people to us. I've also got my book, Action Tracking, which is, it says Master Your Digital Marketing Strategy in Under 30 Days. And that's the idea behind it. How can you find those messages that are going to get people to take an action and actually buy your stuff?
Beautiful. So can we get that book on Audible?
Yep. Oh, you can't get it on Audible. Sorry, not yet, but you can get it on Amazon. And okay. You can get it on my website at katrinagerman.com. And then for those people who may be like, well, that's great, Katrina, but I don't really know how to set up a Facebook ad or, that kind of thing. I do have the video training too, which is just, step by step of here's exactly how you set up a Facebook ad. Here's exactly how you do this research. Here's exactly how you get into Google, keyword research, that sort of thing.
So that's video training that you have outside of the book, or
yes, in addition to the
book. In addition to the book. So get the book and then you get all of those resources.
If you purchase the course as well. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we got that. So that is awesome. So Katrina, thank you. Thank you for being here. As always, this recording is going to be posted to the same blog post, written video. I'm putting it all out there, throwing it all. We'll see what sticks. But it will be posted there. I'll be following up with an email message to the participants, to all the registrants on this call with that link so you have it. As always, if you feel that this information needs to be shared or communicated with someone that you know that is in the spot, please feel free to share it. I'm actually always amazed with how many people reach out to ask me if they can share things. It's beautiful, but you don't just share, get it out there, share. So please do that. And then just 2 updates to let you know about. On Tuesday morning, we will be sitting down with Lynn McGaughy. And if that name sounds familiar to anybody, she used to be with Women Entrepreneurs, and then she was with Great West, and she now has her own practice, but she is going to be walking us through how to navigate employee benefits through COVID, including the EI and the CERB. So that's going to be extremely important. That's going to be at 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And also on Saturday, we're launching what's called the Stronghold Budget. So the Stronghold Budget is walking people through how to collect all their financial information, how to streamline their expenses, how to optimize their existing resources, and then how to access additional funding. It's 3 steps. We should be able to get it done in 3 days. It's a evergreen, right, Katrina? Evergreen. It's accessible to you at all times, but I will be showing up and doing live coaching on that every week. And best part, it's a pay what you can model. So whatever you know, whatever you can put out there. It's really just about making sure that you stay financially fierce through this and that you've got access to funding to keep you strong through COVID. So that's it for me. Katrina, thank you again for being here. Very, very powerful. I'm looking forward to sharing this and circulating this. I know there was a lot of interest. And just so that you're all aware, Katrina said, oh, it's Good Friday. Should we really do it on Good Friday? But I know there were many people that were saying, I need the information, like I need to do this now. I don't want to wait until next week. Time is of the essence, as you mentioned. So thank you for showing up, Katrina, and sharing your time with us. And thank you for everybody on the call. As always, it's lovely to have you here. Appreciate you showing up. Thank you, Chris, for your comment. And with that, I think we'll stop the recording. Now it's Great Friday. That's right, Clayton. Now it's Great Friday. So everybody stay safe out there, stay strong, stay financially fierce, and have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you next week. Bye for now.